Welcome to the Lightforge podcast. This is ADWCTA.
This is Merps. Hello. We got stuff to talk about this week. If you guys are completely tired of this meta, and if you need a new meta, great.
It's
New
coming.
cards were revealed. Yeah, it's coming at some point. Now, if you're looking for maybe not power creep, oh no. We're looking at some pretty good cards here.
We are looking at some pretty good cards, but first of all, the expansion is called Festival of Legends. It is going to be music themed, specifically probably more rock themed, from ETC. And it's gonna it looks pretty cool. They're really going all in on this music and band and guitars and stuff, including all the people that make up a tour. Like you have sound engineers, I don't know. There's a priest location that's called Fan Club. All this stuff is coming, so the theme is pretty cool. In terms of the power creep, though, the main power creep that's happening is all on the class card side. The neutral cards haven't been that, eyebrow raising. They've been in line with what you'd expect from a new or kind of set. I think the power creep concerns, if you've been hearing about them, are very much oh yeah, these class cards are going to be insane, which they need to be, because you need to do stuff with classes and they need to compete with prior cards. Once you release Caverns and Bloodseeker, you can't go back. You got to release other cards that'll compete with Caverns and Bloodseeker.
Yeah. So, how much are we talking about the cards today? Are we just talking about themes and that stuff?
We'll talk about themes, but they only revealed 30 something cards, and of them maybe 20, probably less, maybe 15 are not legendary. And they generally are only revealed in order to show a theme, so I feel like we'll just end up talking about it. But let's jump in with the big mechanic, right? The big mechanic that is coming in with the new set is finale. In a show, you play some songs that are nice, and then you end with a big finale, right? And they're trying to capture this mood by having this extra condition of the card that triggers if you use up all your mana on that turn. So you don't even have to play any other cards. You just have to finish off using all your mana. This means you do have to use all your mana, so it could actually be a bit difficult to do it on turn 10 and above if you don't have a lot of cards. And two, you can only use one finale per turn, because the other cards wouldn't be the one that actually finishes off your turn. But it also means that, thematically speaking, if you have a finale card that's 4 mana, you could play it when you have 4 mana, on turn 4, and that's the finale. So I don't know, but that's the ability.
Yep. So it's interesting just because my immediate thought is ooh, a good redemption opportunity for demon hunters now. Because it's just interesting because you have all of these classes that have 2 mana hero power. So, if something is finale 4, it's okay, I can either trigger it turn 4 or turn 6 easily, right? I can trigger it turn 6 easily. Once I reach turn 7, 3 mana cards are pretty common-ish, right? So, you shouldn't have that much trouble. But it's really just kind of the one-offs, right? It's on turn 5, it's really hard for me to trigger it unless I have that hero power. It's just interesting because you do have this one class with a 1 mana hero power, and the others are 2 mana. But also I'm thinking man, 1 mana cards are suddenly just more useful, right? You have this, and you just get extra bang for your buck by having this additional mana flexibility. If you have a 2 mana hero power and a 1 mana card, let's say you have a Mistake in your hand, right? You're ooh, this card just will have extra value. I'm using it almost like a coin or a token or just something that it will help me do this thing that I couldn't do. That's pretty cool. I like that.
Yeah.
Now, as for the effects, they're really freaking powerful.
I mean, they're not that powerful. they're effects, right? They're like the same as you would see like a normal ability on a normal card, right? Like they're what's an ability? I don't know if more has been revealed, but I'm looking at the two that were revealed on day one. One is the priest card, which is a 2 mana. Choose a minion, add a copy of it to your hand. So it copies a minion onto your hand. That's a pretty normal card. That would not be a good card at all if if that were just the card. It would be a very bad card. And finale, give both +1/+2. That's +1/+2 on the board and +1/+2 to this minion that you copied in your hand. And all of a sudden, you're getting some extra value there. It's not even that much extra value though. Like the probably the easier to kind of mentally judge how much Blizzard is going to value this finale mechanic is Ghost Rider. This also goes into my next theme that's happening here that we already know. Ghost Rider is a 5 mana 4/4 undead. Battlecry, discover a spell. Now,
Also, lore wise, I'm sorry, I have to mention this. This is a dead eccentric scribe. It's like the same art, it's just dead.
oh really?
Did you notice that?
No, this is the
Go check
eccentric scribe, but dead, and he like loses 2 attack because he's dead.
Well, see, I don't know if his lost attack is because he's dead, or you'll notice he doesn't have his like little magical books anymore, right? Because his death
Yeah,
rattle
his
is
death rattles are
his
gone.
magical books like are there.
Mm,
I'm guessing maybe it's because like he doesn't have his magical books. I don't know.
okay, okay. I did not know that was the same as the eccentric scribe. That's pretty cool.
Hmm.
So Ghost Rider is a 5 mana 4/4 discover a spell. Usually, discover a spell comes at the cost for a neutral card, right? Something like discover a spell would come at the cost of like 2 stats, like maybe a little less than 2 stats. Here, it's coming at the cost of like 3 and some stats, right? And so if it was just 5 mana 4/4 discover a spell, that would not actually be a good card. Like if you think about the mage, a card that's in the meta right now, Conjurer, that's a 5 mana 6/4 that discovers a spell. That's 2 whole more stats. Like yeah, it's a mage card and not a neutral, but that's kind of what you expect. And Conjurer is not even like a new card or anything, right? Like this has been around for like over a year at this point. So this is Conjurer's power level is not even the most up to date levels of power creep. It's like one cycle behind power creep. So Ghost Rider's finale really has to make up for that 2 extra stats that they lost. Plus, we're just kind of in a what's supposedly a bigger power creep area now. And this is what I mean by neutral cards are not really being power creeped at all. If anything, they're being reined in. Because Ghost Rider's finale is just discover another spell. So rather than discover one spell, you're discovering 2 spells. So you're losing 2 more attack. And remember, Conjurer is not like the best card in the world. Like Conjurer is, I don't know, like not in the top 10 mage cards, definitely, in this meta. Like maybe in the next 10. Like it's just a good card. It's not like a super duper special card. Um, and Ghost Rider is kind of like that. I mean, you'd rather have another discover spell rather than 2 stats, but here it has to be finale. It is a conditional, right? You're not going to be able to get it all the time, and you're not playing this card unless you play it as a finale because that extra discover a spell is such a big part, right? Like you're losing too much from not doing it. That you would only do it if you were like super desperate, right? Like you need to like find something now and play it this turn, or you top decked it, you have no cards left in your hand. You're never going to be able to like actually pull off the finale. But either way, that's that's not a free spell. This is not a 5 mana 4/4 that discovers 2 spells. There's a finale attached to it, like almost as a penalty. Um, and on top of that, discovering your second spell is just not as good as discovering your first spell. Just like drawing your second card is not as much worth as much as drawing your first card, right? Just because you have now more cards that'll take you longer before you can play them out. Whereas you discover one card, you can play it out this turn or the next turn or whatever. It's also why like Sprint, even though it get to a large number of cards, they had to reduce the mana so much because they started realizing that your fifth card or your fourth card are just not anywhere near as good as your first or second card. It actually like goes down quite significantly. So Ghost Rider is kind of an okay card. Like
Kind of.
it's a power wise, Ghost Rider is kind of an okay card. Like it's a weird thing to say about a card that looks so blatantly overpowered because it is discovering spells, and discovering spells is just kind of ridiculous, and this does it twice. But you can only start playing it on turn 5. It's conditional after turn 5 that you may not even get to play it when you want to play it, or you may have to do other awkward things in order to play it. And you're detempoing yourself by like -2, -2 in order to do this. Like you're actually getting penalized for discovering 2 spells. Um, there's so many conditionals, and the final effect is not like super amazing either. Like this is like a balanced spell discovery card. This is not Scorpid. This is not Vizier. This is more like Panda. This isn't even as good as Panda. Like I'll come out and say right now, I don't think this is going to be as good as Panda. Like Panda's still one of the top neutral cards in
Yeah,
a
well,
very
I'm
big
like, that's
meta.
not. Yeah.
But what I'm saying is we're not power creeping here with cards like Ghost Rider. And I'll throw one more thing out there, not just it's not a finale card, but there's also another card coming out. Why am I forgetting the name? It's a 2-drop that is a 1/3 and has battle cry. This is discover a spell. Neutral, common, like that's coming. That's basically the 2-drop version of a Panda. Remember, Panda used to be that. Panda used to be 2 mana, 1/3 Battlecry discover a spell that didn't start in your deck. This one's just discover a spell. But it's basically an old school Panda. And an old school Panda was kind of balanced. Like it wasn't one of the top cards when it was a 2 mana, 1/3 discover a spell. One of the top neutral cards. Only when it got boosted to a 3 mana card and it became more acceptable as a 3-drop, even if it's not a good 3-drop, did it become like one of the problematic cards, or like on the line, right, of problematic or not problematic when it comes to power level. And then when you go even higher from that, when you look at Scorpid, which is a actual full on curve, if not over curve, 3-drop that also discovers a spell. Now you have actual overpowered problematic, should not be in the game, unnerfed, kind of neutral. So on this scale, that 2-drop and this Ghost Rider is below that line of just raw power being unacceptable and neutral. Like this is not power creep. This is the opposite. This is Blizzard seeing an opportunity to power creep or even to match existing power levels from over a year ago and saying, no, on the neutral side, we're not making Vizier 2.0. We're not making Scorpid 2.0. We're actually taking a little bit of a step back. We want this discover mechanic. Like, we really like discovering spells. But we're not going to push it. And in fact, we are going to pull it back a little.
So this is really whenever we talk about any sort of potential power creep, I agree that individually the cards themselves seem to be okay, right? You can take everything individually and it's okay. The problem is you kind of get to, you look at all the cards in totality and you're like, wait a second. It's like they really do seem to be leaning into discover. If you
Hard.
look at hard, if you look at the rarity of some of these cards as well, it's very worrisome.
Yes. Comments.
Should we talk about paparazzi right now?
Yeah, let's
Like
talk about
that's
paparazzi.
one. Yeah, I think we should talk about that. Okay. So I don't have it in front of me, but I believe it's a 3 mana 3/4 common neutral, right?
I don't have it in front of me either.
Yeah.
I'm looking at it right now. It is a 3
Yep.
mana 3/4 common
For
neutral.
common neutral.
Mm-hmm.
Battle cry, discover a legendary minion. This is the type of card in which, if you look at the average power level, remember, average power level, first of all, you're playing a spider tank. Actually, not even like, that mech tag has become just more and more and more useful, right?
Oh yeah, there's a lot of mechs coming in here because they're creating music, which has a lot of mechs.
Yeah. So, if you just look at that, it's okay. It's okay. But the real problem comes from the fact that, man, this swing is something that even once they play it, like once they play like the card, you can just be like, well, I should be expecting legendary. Well, I don't know. What are you expecting? Right? Like what the hell are you expecting? Um you don't know if it's like a big legendary, a small legendary. They're all pretty damn good at this point. Is it going to be an RBO kind of a bomb? Maybe you should expect that. But all of them sort of do different things as well. Like some are giant swings, some are just giant stat sticks, some taunt, some don't, some destroy everything. I don't know. Um, this really sucks. Like it just really sucks. I don't know the constructed implications of it, but this is a card that will absolutely have a huge effect on the arena meta because you're going to draft it. The downside, and yes, there's obviously a downside to a 3 mana 3/4 these days, but it's not big enough, right? They didn't make it like a 3 mana 3/3. The downside isn't big enough such that you're just like, oh, I'm giving up like something huge here.
Mm-hmm.
And the upside is because you get to discover. The worst is you get like a decent card, right? And there's a lot of high rolls now. There's so many high rolls. But this is just one of the problems. So when we talk about power creep, a lot of it has to do with like, okay, so you have a lot of discovers in your deck now from what they printed recently in terms of all of those discovers, right? If you play mage these days, you know all the discovers that are possible. Now you have paparazzi,
Mm-hmm.
and you have like the new scribe. This
So
is
I look at
yeah.
Paparazzi, and I think that's going to be a pre-ban card. And if it's not a pre-ban
Do
card,
you
it's going
think
to be
so?
banned very quickly because it's. I
Wait, you
mean,
actually think they're gonna ban it?
I think they are when it comes to because it's just a common card that this or okay if they don't ban it they'll nerf it to the point that it's like an epic or probably a legendary levels
Okay,
because
okay. You think
it's
how
so
long do you think that'll see? This is interesting. I'm usually the person who thinks, or this might be the first example where you think something is gonna get banned,
yeah
and I don't.
yeah
I'm usually the person who thinks things will get banned.
I think it's going to get banned because it's breaking even more. It's not just Discover, right? If it said like Discover a spell, then no, I don't think it's going to get banned. In fact, I think they've shown that they will actually just keep it in the meta. But when it's Discover a legendary minion, I think they want legendaries to still feel special. Like, I think that's part of the arena where legendaries are supposed to feel special, where you're not supposed to put as many legendaries in your deck as you want. And a common neutral, especially a common neutral with a boosted offering rate, which all the new cards are going to have, I think that's going to break it. Like, I think it's just not going to feel good for really anybody. So, I don't know if they're going to, like, I think they may nerf it as of, and it's going to have an insane win rate, right? Like you said, because it's just like an insane card. So I think they're going to nerf the offering rate very quickly, and if they don't nerf it very quickly or even pre-nerf it, then they're going to nerf it in whenever they do the first class adjustment update, like 2 weeks in or whenever. It's so outrageous that the effects are going to be so noticeable and so bad. It's also legendary minions. It's not even like spells, right? Spells are at least class. They're flavorful. Legendary minions are not flavorful. They're just random, and especially depending on what decks are, what sets are in, right? Like I could see them keep it in if the sets are like a mostly wild kind of rotation where there's just
That would
fewer.
also be very dangerous because then we're really a lot of these cards, like the difference in power levels are going to be
Yeah, yeah,
are
but
going to be
that's the
yeah.
old problem, right? But in a meta like that, then this just becomes another super powerful, new card, similar to probably other super powerful new cards that exist. And the bad old legendaries diluting the pool are going to like do a number on this. It's still going to be really good. I still think they're going to reduce the offering rate from it, but they might not. If it's a mostly standard meta, then I think we're there. I'm more than 75% confident that they're going to nerf it to be an epic, if not lower. Um,
Okay. All right.
but yeah, but that would be the example where like compare that to the other two cards we were talking about, right? Compare that to um I keep hearing to Ghost Rider and what's the what's the 2 mana card? I just don't have the name of that card. It's 2 mana 1/3. Hipster, that's right. Thank you, chat. Hipster and Ghost Rider is kind of in its own category where they're taking a step back with the Discover spell, and Paparazzi is on the full other side, right? Like Paparazzi is Scorpid, and they're printing it, and it's even less flavorful than Scorpid. So we'll see.
No, it's true.
Um,
Everybody discovering and tossing out RBOs,
yeah,
that's not a good, or sorry, that's a significantly worse arena experience from the player's perspective and the dev's perspective than mages getting box
yeah,
or rune. Uh, yeah, right. Like shamans getting lightning storm or like devolve or well, one of their like evolution spells.
yeah.
At least those are kind of flavorful, and whatever bombs there are, it's like, well, okay, this is the class bomb, not
Yes.
the RBO bomb.
Like this is the mage killing you by being a mage.
Yes,
Paparazzi, is, like even if they got it from the Scorpid, Paparazzi is just going to be the big, the Yaceras and the whatever, like just dominating. It's no one's gonna like it because your percentage of it happening, especially if it's in a mostly standard or fully standard meta, the percentage of it, you getting a busted legendary is so high. It's so high that it's almost like a guaranteed. So then you're just and it's a boosted common card. You can get like 2 of these per run. Both you and your opponent. Like, what are you doing? Like, it's going to come to a level where they just know that they just see that they have to at least lower down the offering rate, if not completely get rid of this card. Um, but yeah, but Discover Spells is up. And also, I'll say one more thing about the Discover Spells. The old Discover Spells cards may just all be out. Because remember, the core rotation is changing. Like, I don't know if Panda's going to still be around.
right.
And Scorpid, depending on what sets are in the next one, may very well be out. I think it's likely to be out. And Vizier may or may not be out. Right, that's in the latest set. So you're looking at this and you're like, oh, if you add all 3 of these common neutrals into the current meta, what the hell? Well, you may not have any of the 3 offenders in the current meta still in the meta when Festivals of Legends meta comes out. So these may be
True.
just the replacements.
True.
Yeah.
Um, so this is also a reason why if anybody is saying like, "Oh, this will break the meta or whatever," it's like we don't know what the meta is. I have no idea. Now,
I
I
mean,
certainly don't
Paparazzi will
like.
break any meta if
Yeah,
you
it'll
don't
break
change
any
its
meta.
offering rates.
Uh, but I actually don't. Man, I'm so surprised you think. I really do not think they are going to change it for quite a while. If they do,
Really?
yes,
I think
I
it's
do not think so.
so powerful that it'll be like this is off the charts level of power level compared to even Scorpid. And Scorpid's already in the point where you're like, oh, it's really weird that they didn't nerf this one.
No, I just think the devs are okay with Arena being a skillful tavern brawl. I think they just are. Which
Well,
this is where
but paparazzi, but having a neutral card going that high is not just like a tavern brawl issue. It's not just a skill issue. It's a what are we even doing here? Like kind of issue, right?
well, it's not a
Like
what are we doing here. It's like, oh, we're pushing Arena slightly closer to a tavern brawl experience, right? Slightly.
when it's a common neutral boosted offering rate card that's
Yes.
generating neutral broken cards on a consistent basis, no one's going to like it. This is not a like if this is a tavern brawl experience, it'll be a tavern brawl experience people may like for 1 week, like how tavern brawls are. And no one even likes tavern brawl for a week. They like tavern brawl for a couple days, and then they wait the week out. Um, like that's the experience it'll be. And if the devs don't recognize it, they'll start getting the feedback within a week, and then they'll be able to move on it when by the time the 2 week or whenever the actual class adjustment hits. This is it's such a problematic card that I'm kind of like not scared of it except for the opening. And the opening, by the way, when this set initially launches, and I think this will be true with pretty much every set that initially launches from not just from here on out, but from just it's been like this forever. It's always terrible. Like the first week is always terrible. It's been like this for I don't know 4 years, 5 years, 6 years. So I don't really care or count that first 1 or 2 week meta because it's always terrible and there's nothing they can do about it. They have to like react afterwards. They can make it slightly more playable, right? They could pre-ban some cards or whatever, but their actual adjustments and which class comes out on top, they really don't have good guesses on that. And neither do we. And like you have to have like a real obvious case, like the Death Knights, right? Where Death Knight is standard, everything else is wild. Where you're like, okay, well, Death Knights are probably going to be really problematic. But for a normal launch, you're not going to have that problem. Although I guess if it's a wild rotation, you just have the Death Knight problem again. But now they know which cards to nerf, and there's already a card that's banned. So like from Death Knights, so maybe it won't be as bad coming in. But anyway, let's talk about another card. Someone was trying to, and chat was bringing it up, and I realized we skipped it for the finale. We have 2 more finale cards that were revealed after the initial reveal date, and so let's talk about them a little here too, because finale is that's the main keyword, right? And these are interesting cards. So one of them is a 4-drop. It's Candle Raiser, 4 mana, 3/3 Divine Shield, and it is a God, why am I blanking on it? What's the 4 mana 3/3 Divine Shield from like classic?
Silver Moon Guardian.
Silver Moon Guardian, that's right. So it's a Silver Moon Guardian if you just play it, right? Like without the finale. But even
which
if you
was a shit card like 8 years ago.
yes,
and now it is
it's like a card that's like kind of almost as good as a 4 mana 3/5, which is terrible back then. So, but on the bright side for this card, the finale is give adjacent minions Divine Shield. So that's possibly 2 extra Divine Shields. And as a 4-drop, this would trigger. So if you have something on board on turn 3, this becomes like a legit 4-drop. Like that also gives you one of your things a Divine Shield. So this becomes like a neutral, buffed up Argent Protector. Because remember, Argent Protector now is 3/2, give a friendly minion Divine Shield. So on curve, this is now Argent Protector-ish, which is really good. Later on, it can give up to 2 Divine Shields, but you also have some kind of mana problems where you do have to use this like as a finale. So
now the thing is, the more mana you have, the more stuff you can play, and then just give them Divine Shield, right? Like,
yes,
we're
but
talking about Divine Shield with initiative.
Yes,
but yeah, like you could also just get Divine Shields on them with no initiative. That's fine too.
But the passive Divine Shield is not like
it's not as
good,
valuable,
especially when it's not a curve card anymore at that point, right? Like a 3/3 Divine Shield is much better on curve than off curve. So overall, like, is this a really powerful neutral card? Yeah. Is this pushing any real like power level boundaries? Like, this is I haven't done the math on it, but I don't think this is going to come out to be an A tier card.
So I think what it really speaks to is not really the power level of this by itself, but really the amount and power of comeback mechanisms that are in this game. So you or your opponent getting this off, that's a nice swing and everything, but from the metas that have been created, there are just so many comeback mechanisms now, right? Such that in years past, you getting this off, you getting off 1 Divine Shield even, but especially if you get off 2 Divine Shields, GG, it's over. Like, and then suddenly we're talking about Deathwing on their end, right? It's like, oh, are they going to Deathwing? Are they going to Twisting Nether? That's it. And now you're just like, okay, they can do one of 100 things, of pretty normal meta things, and come back. Not even just incrementally, just sort of like come back in 2 turns, right? to swing the board. So it really speaks to the amount and power of those sorts of cards that are in the meta. But that's not to say that this is not a swing in and of itself.
Yeah.
And you
It,
that's what you want to do. You want to just keep trying to create these swings.
it's Argent Protector, right? Like in Classic, if you Argent Protected on two, so many times, like I would say like 90% of the time, the game's just over. If your opponent
Yeah.
Argent Protectors like successfully coin,
Coin
Raptor
Raptor
Argent Protector,
into yep.
it's over. Um, and that was a 2/2 for Argent Protector. So those days are gone, right? You Candle Raiser onto a 3-drop, and you get a good trade on it. Game's not over at all. Game's not even close to over. Game's about the same as if you've like just played. I'm terrible with cards. Even these like very popular cards. The 3/4 Frenzy that gets the Divine Shield.
Oh, Sunwell?
Yeah. So it's like almost as if you just played a Sunwell on 3. Like the effect is so similar. Like if you played
No,
uh
I understand what you mean, and I think those of you out there have experienced it where a Sunwell is dropped, super awkward. The
yeah.
Sunwell is gonna get like the Sunwell is gonna trade, kill something, and leave behind a Scarred Crusader,
Hmm.
right? And that's super value. That's like super value, and you didn't even need anything on the board.
Yeah.
That's the power of Sunwell, right? Um, and it's super annoying, and you try to figure everything out, but you never look at the Sunwell and you're just like, well, this beat or sorry, if a single Sunwell has beaten you, your deck just sucks. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. You were destined for like two wins. You weren't going anywhere. Um, this is a meta in which if Sunwell gets that value, okay, you should be able to come back, right? If something like that, if a swing like that happens to you, especially on turn 3, in which that's a gigantic swing on turn 3. That's
Hmm.
enormous. Like your 3-drop gets eaten,
Yeah.
or
I mean
you're really played.
that would be a turn 4 swing though, because you can't attack until turn 4.
Yes. But like any sort of early swing like that these days, I think you guys know. If it happens on your side or the other side, you're like, all right, this is just the beginning of the game. Like, cool. Like now it's time for the real game to begin. Um, it's going to be the case with this as well. Well, once again, we don't know what the meta is. We have
Hmm.
no idea. Maybe they are like, hey, core is just the theme for core is attack of the yetis, and it's just going to be different. You know how for like the piranha fish they have different colors. It's
Yeah.
just going to be different colored yetis. It's like purple yeti up against light blue yeti up against like rainbow yeti. It's all yetis, you know.
Yeah. Those are the comparisons that you draw with Candle Raiser. Like, it's not really a card to be worried about, but it is going to be a good card. You're going to draft it a lot. You're going to use
Or
it a lot.
sorry, I mean like yeah, here's the thing. I can't tell people not to worry about it because it's going to be very powerful.
Well,
It's
you should
just
worry about every card your opponent puts in their deck in a standard meta. Because they're all ridiculous, right? Like, if you judge it
they
by the
yeah.
old standards. But this one's not more ridiculous, even for a neutral, than what we've come to expect. Like,
I agree with that. I agree.
think about the swings that it generates. It's not like that fearsome unless you really set it up. Compared to some of the like no nonsense stuff that we had, like a card like Silver Moon. Speaking of Silver Moon, the new one that's the 2/5 taunt, Silver Moon armor, I think, or is it protector? It's the 2/5 taunt and it gets +2/+2 and divine shield after you mana thirst on turn 7 or above. Um, you don't have to do anything. Just
Yeah,
starting
true.
on turn 7, you get 2/2 plus divine shields worth about what, like a little more than 2 stats at that point. So you get like 6.5 more stats for nothing. For nothing. What's it like? The Candle Raiser is going to get you maybe like 6.5 more stats, right? Maybe a little bit more, but it's all conditional on setup and whatever. And it's 4 mana and not 3. And you do have that awkwardness. It's not even like you can play it anytime turn 7 and after. You can't hang a mana on that turn, and you can't
Yeah.
play any other finale cards. Um, so it's just like compared to the neutral cards that we're used to seeing, right? Especially from the last expansion that came out. Like we don't even have to touch Vizier. Even the Silver Moon Armorer, where we're looking at it and we're like, this isn't as good, or like it's at most like about as good. Like it's just not a problematic card. I don't think it's as good. I think it's going to come out below it significantly. Um, so okay. So the other finale card, this is the one I think even more people want to talk about because it just looks so ridiculous, is Concert Promo Drake. Concert Promo Drake is a 8 mana 8/8 dragon. It is also tradable. I don't know why it's tradable.
I don't know why it's tradable. Why would you make this thing tradable? Why make it tradable? It's so dumb.
By the way,
It's so dumb.
tradable cards are really good with finale.
Really good.
Because that's your
Yes.
1 mana thing that you can do to fill in finales.
Right. Like when I was talking about, oh, now you have a mistake in your hand, or like Elven Archer, you know, if we have Elven Archers in the meta, in your hand, and you can keep it tradable. It's perfect. You don't even use up that slot for something that's super small, right? You don't need the Elven Archer or mistake and to kind of waste the card on something so small. You can have this card, and you can just trade it away in the early turns, like to proc whatever you need.
Yeah.
But anyways, sorry, please go on.
Yeah. So yeah, the tradables is just an unnecessary super good thing to put in this card. And as we know, tradable on high mana cards are really, really good. See Amulet for Mage. Because they suffer less from the, oh my god, I have this 8 mana card that I can't play forever blocking my hand because I got it in my opening hand kind of deal. So okay, 8 mana 8/8 tradable, still not good, right? 8 mana 8/8s are pretty much unplayable these days. Finale. Destroy an enemy minion.
You get to choose. It's not random.
Now, that is a very playable card to assassinate something and get an 8/8. That's a very playable card. Now, we have some people who freak out about this card and are like, "Oh my god, the world is ending." And I'm here to tell you that this card is not that good. Sorry, asterisk. This card is not that game breaking. This card is very good.
Yeah, all right. That I agree with you. It will not break the game because the game is already. It will keep the game in its current state.
Yes.
Now, if you are of the mindset that the game is extraordinarily broken already, yeah, okay, all right, fine. The game will be what it continues to be. Now, here's the thing. I do watch Mr. 9.4. He's probably the angriest he's ever been. There's no medication out there that can probably drop his blood pressure to
does
an acceptable
Dredz
degree
really
anymore.
not like this card?
He just doesn't really love where the meta is right now. He has also anger tweeted about this card and other cards, specifically adding Matt London quite a few times. Because this is his J Omega Low B, right? He has built a quote career out of this, so he does care a lot. But I agree with you. I was initially worried about your statement. I was like, wait, what do you mean? Like you're not worried about this? But yes, if your point is this is just more of the same that we see, absolutely, totally agree with you there. Like
this is not as good as Scorpid, and this is not as problematic as Scorpid.
Okay.
This is also not as fun as Scorpid.
No, I agree with all of that. It's not as good as Scorpid. It's not as fun as Scorpid. It's not as unpredictable as Scorpid, right? Scorpid also has this insidious kind of like they played Scorpid on 3, but they got Rune. And it's coming for you, but you don't know, right? Like, but by the time the Rune comes, you don't think about the Scorpid anymore. The Drake, you're gonna blame every single time because the Drake comes out and it's like, oh, this thing is dead, and you're gonna think, oh, damn Drake. But then when the Rune comes out, you're like, oh, damn Rune or damn Mage, right? Damn Rune, damn Mage. Sometimes damn Scorpid. But the Scorpid is there already dead from like 5 turns ago, snickering from beyond the grave. It's like, ha ha, I got away with this. The Drake will never get away with it. You're always going to blame the Drake, right?
Yeah.
But yeah,
but like, it's just, okay. Assassinate is like 4 mana. And it's not that great at 4 mana. Like, it's good, but Assassinate's like not one of the top rogue cards or anything. So this one can't be played until 8. And so think of Assassinate maybe should be these days like 3.5 mana to be like a good card. Like a great card, let's say.
Yeah.
And that means for an extra 4.5 mana on turn 8 or above, you get an 8/8 off curve. because there's no curve at that point. Is it good? Yeah, it is. Is it like game breaking that instead of getting what's 4.5 mana, what should 4.5 mana get you? Like in an off curve situation, like a six
Okay,
six,
so
like a 6/7, and instead you get an 8/8. Like,
here's one way to think about it. On turn 8, it is okay, so you have to use it on turn 8, right? On turn 9, it really sucks. On
yes.
turn 10, on turn 9, you could have something, either you're a demon hunter, or you have like a tradable card or a
Mhm.
one mana card
But
or
it's like
something to make
awkward,
it
right?
good.
It's awkward. It's
It's awkward.
unpredictable that you have it.
And you never, almost never, unless you're like pushing lethal, you don't have other cards, almost never want to play it as just an 8 mana 8/8. You
Mhm.
just don't want to do that. And on turn 10, I don't think Stoneborn General is like, like kind of breaking the meta here for
Yeah.
anybody, right? Like
Yeah.
Stoneborn General is not breaking the meta for anyone. And this is like, is this better than Stoneborn General? Sometimes it is. Sometimes it's worse, right?
It's
Sometimes
usually
it's
worse.
worse. I think it actually is usually worse turn 10 than Stoneborn General. So
I mean, yeah,
this
like
is
turn
this is
8
why.
is also worse than Stoneborn General. It's just kind of worse than Stoneborn General. But it's making up for the fact that it's worse than Stoneborn General and that Stoneborn General is not tradable. Like,
True.
this is where the
Yeah.
tradable card comes in.
But no, I
Because if there's
agree.
no
It's
tradable here, then this is not like anywhere. Like, this is not as good as Stoneborn General.
uh I don't know about that, but yes, with the tradable, it is really dumb. On turn 8, it could be really, really dumb, right? But it's interesting. It also gives you this window where, like, oh, going to turn 8, it's like I don't want to play
Yes.
one giant thing. On turn 9, oh, I want to play my giant thing now. Now, here's the thing: you have to hope that they don't have a 1 mana card in their
And
hand,
there's like
and
gonna be
you
like a 50% chance that they do.
no, yeah. Well, it's gonna be 100% when you make the correct read and you're just like they only have two other cards in hand. What are the chances
Yeah,
it's a
what are the
1 mana
chances that they've
card?
been holding a 1 mana card this whole time? And they're
What are the
like, hmm?
chances they're gonna have it? Come on, like they're gonna have it. But however, it like I do agree, and I have seen a little bit like people are just like this card in conjunction with the other cards are going to change the. Nothing changes about the arena.
Yeah.
If you think that the current state of the arena in which the power swings, the power level or whatever, the amount of discovers sort of period is acceptable, great. It will be more acceptable, like of the same acceptable level. If you think the arena is broken right now, you're constantly raging, tweeting at the devs who are probably just laughing at you at the office. Um, well, it's going to be more of the same, right? Paparazzi, the Drake, like everything put together. There's that like epic Cairn, right? There's that like 6 mana 5/5 that like spawns a random fun. Like these things are going to tilt the shit out of you. They're going to tilt you into oblivion with the discover, with the RNG, with sort of like the fact that oh it's perfectly on curve, right? Or oh it's perfect mana, all of these things that you used to complain about, that's more applicable now. It's like, oh, was that a good top deck right on turn 4, right on turn 8? Yes, it's going to severely piss you off now. That should be more of the same. You guys know what comebacks are possible in this meta. You guys know sort of like what mages can do with the 6 cards that they played that were not even in their deck, but they were able to repeat with the 2 parrots that were in their deck.
Mm-hmm.
That's this meta, right? And if you let them, for lack of better terms, do these things and get there, which is what we talked about. Why part of the reason why Hunter is so strong right now, because it's a stronger way for you to stop them from just playing all of their discovers and cards. If you let them get there, they will get there. And these cards are really more of the same.
Yep. I'm just glad that one of these cards is like a late game tempo-y card. We don't have enough late game tempo cards that do stuff. It's all like discover and like, spells and like whatever. This one's at least a solid, like, we talk about Stoneborn General, right? Like Mercer Stoneborn General. This is like a better Stoneborn General.
It
And
is a better Snowboard in general.
in
Yeah.
the like standard meta, like that's a fine thing to have. There's nothing wrong with having that in the standard meta. In a wild meta, that is terrible, and will cause ridiculous swings, and everything you've done before that doesn't matter. Blah 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 blah. But hey, it's a new card, right? Like they're all going to be standard meta design. This one's not anything to write home about specifically. Like this is why like I feel like these designs for Arena are like generally restrained, or like card designs overall for this new set. And to be fair, the first set of the year is usually a bit muted in terms of power because they don't want to. The last set of the year is the one that's super powerful, and you saw that. Like, there's a reason why Vizier is not in this set, and it was in the prior set because we're stepping down again, right? You had Vizier in the prior set. This set, you have like I don't know what was that card called again? Hipster,
Yeah, hipster, I think.
hipster. You're stepping down for the most part. The one that breaks the rule, the one that breaks all of that, is Paparazzi, and
Yeah.
I think that one breaks it because Paparazzi is so different for constructed and for arena.
No, it's true. Yeah, it's true.
Like, yeah, Scorpid is very different for constructed and arena, but even Scorpid is closer. Like that delta between how you would think it would do in constructed versus how you would think it would do in arena. Even that is more constrained than Paparazzi. Paparazzi is doing one of those things that you don't want to do in arena in terms of power levels, and also doing one of those things that you don't want to do in arena in terms of design for neutral cards. So that's why I believe that it's going to get nerfed down or totally removed. But
Okay.
we'll see.
That's your call. I don't think so. I mean, okay. So once again, I would be happy if it did. I think that would be better for the game, right? I just don't think it will be, and we'll see who's right.
Yeah.
Or sorry, I definitely don't think it will be in like the first month
Right,
or so.
right.
That's my call. That's my call. Yeah. If it extends past the first month, whatever. But I'm going to say nothing will happen to it in any significant fashion. I'm not saying like, oh, they do an adjustment. They do an adjustment like 2-3 weeks in that captures all discovers, right? Or something like that. I'm saying something that is a little bit more paparazzi specific.
Yep.
Yeah. I don't think that'll happen in the first month.
Okay. And speaking of the first month, this set we anticipate is going to come out April 11th. They haven't given a release date yet, and everything's been like a little delayed. You guys know the mini set was pretty delayed compared to how they usually reveal it, so it could be the 18th of April. Like maybe they're just like really running behind, and they're like they don't have their like stuff together, and so it's just going to be delayed. But it should be coming out on the 11th. That's when we anticipate this set to come out. Um, which timing with my personal life, the baby's gonna come soon after that, so I may not even have to worry about this meta for a bit. So we'll see. Or like the good version of this meta, the version of this meta without paparazzi, or with a very nerfed down offering rate paparazzi. Because you really can't play the game with paparazzi as a boosted common neutral card.
I agree. Now here's the thing. It's going to be fun for a lot of people. Like now, I don't think it's going to be a lot of people who listen to this podcast. You know, the dozen or so people who listen to this podcast. But I think it will be fun for a good amount of people. So that's why I understand, like a card like Paparazzi, and that's why I don't think it'll actually be nerfed. I think it'll be so fun for a large amount of people, and that's where I'm coming from.
But like it's gonna have a win rate that's going to be better than Ysera.
Well, Ysera's a trash card, right?
Well, for good players, but we're talking about these like regular players. We're talking about stats that Matt London and team will be looking at. You're just gonna have this neutral common card that everyone has, two of in their deck, and it's neutral, makes all the games the same. It comes out starting on turn 3, which means that it comes out whenever the legendary that gets picked has that, that mana cost. and it's gonna determine, not flat out determine. The meta's a little more crazy than one card can determine the whole game. Like
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
that's why I said Ysera, right? Like it's not Deathborn. But it's a neutral card. So I don't know. I think they're out there nerfing legendary card win rates, right? Like they have historically nerfed the win rates of legendary cards even that are performing too well. Well, here you have a common neutral boosted card that is effectively a legendary card and like a grab bag of the best legendary cards more often than not. Like, how do you not nerf that?
Look, I understand. This is I think that logically it should be nerfed. This is me making a prediction, right?
It's just a
I don't think
transitive property, you know? Like, if you're out there nerfing all the neutral, top performing legendary cards, how are you going to nerf the common card that backdoors you into these at a way higher rate than even
because
what
you
the
have to
original legendary cards should have been?
balance out the fun factor.
But like, you drafting the legendary cards is fun too. Like, well, what I'm
Yeah.
basically what I'm saying is the offering rate is not. It's not like this comparable thing where they're like, oh, you have a Ysera. Do now maybe you have twice the amount of Yseras? No. If you had the Ysera and you thought that was too many Yseras and you had to reduce Ysera's offering rate to be like half or a quarter of the old Ysera's offering rate, now this offering rate would be a Ysera offering rate times 3 or 4. Like, that's how often you're going to be offered Ysera from this card. Um, like, not specifically Ysera, but Ysera plus the like 5 other ones that they banned that are neutral. Not banned, that they lower the offering rates of that are neutral, right? Like, of the problematic neutral legendary cards, you will be offered them at a rate that is 3 or 4 times what the old rate was that they thought was unacceptable and had to nerf down. This is just like the math just doesn't work with this card without it also being nerfed down by like a factor of 4 or 8. By a factor of 4, would make it legendary.
See, you're tossing out all these numbers, and I'm
Oh,
just
sorry. By a
like,
factor of 4, make it epic. By a factor of 8, would make it legendary.
I just think a lot of people are gonna have a lot of fun with this.
Yeah, and
That's it.
maybe they'll let it run for like 2 weeks, but after that they're gonna control it because the people who are having fun, these are brawl people, right? These are people who are gonna play the arena. Like, they'll have fun with it for the first like 3 runs that they do, which may take them like a week or maybe 2 to get through. They're not gonna have fun after that. It's the same brawl. They're not changing to a different brawl. It's the same exact brawl. Like, this is the problem with arena events that go on for too long, right? Like, when you turn it into a tavern brawl, it's fine for a week. Maybe you can stretch to 2 weeks, but by the third week, the vast majority of people are unhappy. Even the Timmies that you think you're doing this event for. Like, they're over it. They're Timmies. They have these, like, like, hey, what's the next new big thing? Not the same big thing repeating. That's not a Timmy thing. Like, Timmys don't want to build the same big thing and repeat it like 18 bajillion times in a row over the course of a month.
I think that because of how little they play, and it'll take a while. It'll take a long time for them to get tired of it. This is why I said I don't think that it will happen in the first month. I think it'll take at least a month. Because I agree, eventually it will get kind of tiresome, but not in the first month.
Yeah. And for people who are wondering what this card, like, this card is not actually like okay. This card is not as good as Scorpion, Paparazzi. Like, in terms of what we're gonna
I
rate
agree
it.
with that.
Like,
Yeah,
it
I agree
may
with
end
that.
up being an A, just like Scorpion's an A, because A has a pretty like large range, but it's gonna come out with a number that's lower than Scorpion, and we won't tell you what the numbers are, but I'm just telling you right now that's definitely how this is gonna work out. And so the problem is, and we think that that's too powerful for the game or whatever. But the real problem is that it is going to make everything extremely the same. Spells are class specific. Legendary minions, most of the ridiculous ones are not class specific. Most of the ridiculous ones are neutral. Like your class probably has 2 ridiculous legendaries, and there is a pool of like 6 to 8 ridiculous legendaries in the neutral side. Um,
Alrighty.
yeah. All right.
I think we talked enough about this.
Yep. Giving you guys the warning. Um, so that's it for Hearthstone and Festival of Legends. We'll keep talking about stuff as more stuff is revealed, and then we'll do a card reveal whenever like the weekend is before they launch it. All the same stuff. But we do want to say a little something about Diablo 4 before we end this podcast.
Not too much, because I do have
much.
to end this pretty soon, okay?
Yeah. But Diablo 4 beta is out. The early access is out. Next weekend is the regular like open beta, I think. And this was a freaking meaty beta. Like I thought it was gonna be 3 hours. I didn't plan that much extra time in my weekend. It took me 10 hours so far, and I am not done with the full quest. I have completed. You can look at your renown, by the way, to see how much stuff you've completed out of the available completionist amount of stuff. It's not even true completionist. It's just the important enough stuff that they'll award you renown for. And I have completed half of the stuff. I'm almost done with the main quest line, but I'm not even done with that yet. So it'll probably take me, like in this beta, a good 20 hours before I'm satisfied. And I'll be playing next weekend too. I'm gonna finish the this is Sunday. I'm gonna finish the main quest line tonight and call it a night. But I'll be playing all next weekend for this as well. So if you haven't checked it out yet, this is like a quarter of the entire game. There are 4 acts. This is the entirety of Act 1.
Next weekend is open to all. So this weekend you had to like get in either by pre-ordering the game or by eating like a double down from KFC. Okay, I also need to make a comment about that. I hope you guys didn't get the double down from KFC. And if okay, the double down is one of those things that was like, if you consider it tasty, that was tasty back in like 2010, okay, or whenever it came out. I have no idea where it came out. Now that we have Popeye's chicken sandwiches,
yeah,
it is a relic of like
That's
double
fair.
down is a relic of the past. Okay, now we are in a meta. The chicken meta.
The chicken meta has changed forever after Popeyes, though. They're like,
yes,
it's not even cheap. We'll call it like mid-range chicken sandwich meta, or like any kind of fried chicken.
Well, for fast food, it's mid-range, right?
Yeah.
It's fast food.
Because it's like that thing is like
mid-range
$6. Like it's not cheap. Like just the sandwich, no meal.
Over here, it's still $5.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
here, it's still $5.
wow.
Yeah.
How is ours more expensive than yours? I'm in Charlotte.
I have no idea.
You're in DC.
Maybe they know you guys got no other food options.
Okay, we're in the South here. We got plenty of fried chicken options. All right.
Yeah.
Cheaper fried chicken options.
No. But you don't have like, here's the thing. Like, sorry. The density of food options is not as like.
But the density of fried chicken options, I think, is as dense, if not more dense, than DC. There are so many fried chicken places here.
There's a lot of fried chicken places here as well. But anyways, yeah, that is surprising. I will say that that's surprising. But yes, for Diablo 4, it is a very meaty beta, of which I think both of us enjoyed, right? The visuals,
it was super good. And
the visuals are great.
You owe it to yourself to play the beta just to see if you'll get the game. Unless you're like, I'm going to get the game anyway. I don't need to see anything or know anything. Like, fine, right? Like, keep yourself pure. But if you're at all debating getting the game, like, get it. And you don't even have to get the game, right? You could just literally just play through Act 1. Like, that's pretty satisfying. Like, if there was no game, like, if I couldn't buy Diablo 4 and I could just play the beta, I'm pretty satisfied, honestly. Like,
it's a good experience.
It's...
I don't if you play through it, I don't think anybody is like, man, I seriously regret that time.
Yeah,
like,
no.
It's a good time. It's a good time. You're gonna have fun playing the beta. I'm always a person who is not super into the beta, so I played the beta. I did just enough to get to level 20, do some of the side quests, understand the mechanics, and then I completed the main story, which for me is just, it's just like a few hours, right? You are the beta completionist
I'm just a
here.
completionist, period. I don't care what it is. So if it happens to be the beta, I'm gonna try to complete what I can there. I will say that I've been having a really hard time finding the statues. I don't know if my like eyesight is going or if the statues are just really well hidden. But there's like 30 of them in the world apparently, and I found three. I've been to all the zones. I'm like 50% completionist already, so I've been doing a lot of side quests and like a lot of whatever stuff. I have not been finding these freaking like statues of Lilith. Anyway, just my little
But
rant.
anyways, check out the Diablo 4 beta next weekend if you don't have it this weekend. Um, Definitely worth it. Now, here's the thing. I will make no proclamations about whether or not you will enjoy the final game because, as with any Diablo game, it's kind of all about the end game, right? Like,
Well,
if you
okay,
keep
separate
playing,
it out. You have no idea if they'll enjoy the end game of Diablo 4, but the
yes.
40-hour campaign, I think you'll know after you play the beta.
Oh yeah, after you play the beta, do you find it enjoyable, like to keep using these skills, right? The story is good.
Yes.
Like it's not revolutionary,
By
right?
Diablo standards, the story is
Okay,
like
sorry.
eight
By
times
Diablo
better
stand,
than the other Diablo stories.
this is like Oscar award winning
Yes.
by Diablo standards, but Diablo standards is sort of
It's
like
it's it's very, very low.
if somebody made a sequel to Dude, Where's My Car, and they're like, dude, this script is really good, and you're like, well, are we just comparing to the first one? like,
I mean,
is
dude,
is
Where's My Car had a much better script than Diablo 3 or 2 or
uh
1.
the characters are a little bit more complex, definitely. So yeah, like it's all a matter of comparison. But yeah, yeah, I agree with this. I agree with this.
So yeah, I mean, definitely like check it out if you're into ARPGs potentially at all. It's been it
It
has exceeded my pretty high, I think, expectations in terms
easily,
of yeah.
easily exceeded my expectations. The thing that I can really, I'm really impressed by in the beta, and I'm sure that like the other acts will look even better visually, atmospherically. Um,
The
it's
sound.
great. The sound, the feel of
Mm-hmm.
certain skills, how things like pop, right?
Yep.
In which, okay, so here's the thing. Um, Skills, okay, everybody loves D2 and everything, and D2 is like the standard. Skills really didn't feel like they popped in there. People just like the
Yes.
skills there.
Yes.
Now, skills popped a lot in Diablo 3. The problem is everything exploded, right?
Yes.
It's literally just a like you're setting off nukes everywhere. People didn't like that. But it felt pretty good. And then they sort of like fixed that in Diablo Immortal. Diablo
Mm-hmm.
Immortal,
Diablo
you're
Immortal
still
feels the best out of any Diablo series until Diablo 4.
right. In which it's like, okay, it's not 100 nukes going off. It's like 20 nukes going off, right? Um, but the impact you feel it. So I like that.
Mm-hmm.
Try out Diablo 4. That's all I'll say about it for now. I'm very happy with it. I think this does exactly what a beta should do, in that it gets people excited and it's a great showcase, fantastic showcase. I could not imagine a better beta.
Yes.
Now, if the game comes out and it's trash, I think that this lessens the chance of that. But yeah, sure, that's still possible.
I mean, this has nothing to do with
possible.
whether the game is because you define the game as being good or bad based on the end game. This has
Yes.
nothing to do with the end game. This is like,
Yes.
like if you were judging by not the end game, for example, Diablo Immortal is like a 9 out of 10 game.
And
like,
you've been saying that the entire time.
and if you're judging
Especially
it,
because it's free.
yeah, especially because it's absolutely free and pay money doesn't really get you anything. Um, but if you're judging it by the end game, no one's gonna say it's a 9 out of 10 game. Like it's not. Like it could be like a good game or an okay game or whatever, right? But it's not a 9 out of 10 game. Diablo 4, the before end game part is looking like. Don't take this the wrong way, but it is really a merger of Diablo 2 and Diablo Immortal, with no pay to win from the Diablo Immortal side, but it's got that like vaguely MMO feel, but done way better. Like it's like they took all the concepts that Diablo Immortal was trying to do, but either like just didn't do as good of a job on, and Diablo Immortal did a fine job of it, but it wasn't like executed to this degree of polish. And I think the goals were different, right? And it was a mobile platform. And here they just took off all the guardrails and like the seamless questing and side questing and running into other people, but not too many other people, and they phase in and phase out in this game. It is done so well. It like it, I cannot emphasize how hard of a job it is to make a game where you do see other people, but they do not interfere with what you're doing by yourself. And yet, they add stuff to your gameplay without detracting from your gameplay and without having to ever talk to them. Like, that balance, at least in Act 1 in the beta, has been struck so nicely that you would just get into these like particular like zones where there's like a event quest that 2 or 3 people will like be thrown into, and you can engage in it, and you can dynamically not engage in it at any time. It's not like you're like, do you want to engage in this quest, yes or no? It's like, just step into this area and you're in this quest. Oh, you're out of the area, you're not in there anymore. No lag, no anything, just very seamless. And then you're back into your own like adventuring thing where you'll see like one person every like 5 minutes running, away from you doing something else or something. It's they got the atmosphere so good, and it
All
could have
right.
gone so wrong. I will be playing on stream on Friday night, the next weekend, for the Diablo 4 beta. I'll be playing Druid because I can't play Druid right now. There's only 3 characters out right now. Druid and Necromancer aren't available until next weekend. So I'll be doing a main quest only playthrough. Otherwise, I'll never get through it. For Friday night, if you want to hang out and check out the game, or you can just go to Twitch right now and watch anybody playing the game. It looks great. It feels great.
That's it.
All right. We'll be back next week to talk more about Festival of Legends, and kind of the future of this next patch on Hearthstone, and maybe some more about Diablo 4 too. We'll see. Until then, this is ADWCTA.
This is Merp. See you guys.